His comments came before a group of protesters broke into the former Travelers Aid building in order to, as some shouting protesters put it, reclaim the building for the people. Riley, whose anti-capitalist views are well documented, considered the port shutdown particularly significant for organizers who targeted it as an effort to stop the flow of capital. The port sends goods primarily to Asia, including wine as well as rice, fruits, and nuts, and handles imported electronics, apparel, and manufacturing equipment, mostly from Asia, as well as cars and parts from Toyota, Honda, Nissan, and Hyundai. An accounting of the financial toll from the shutdown was not immediately available. The potential for chaos that ultimately erupted was not something Riley wanted to even consider. If they do that after all this, said Riley, pausing cautiously, then adding, they're smarter than that. But the peace that abided throughout a sunny, warm autumn Wednesday, as protesters hung a large black banner downtown that read, "Death to Capitalism," did not last as a cool midnight approached. Occupy protesters voicing anger over a budget trim that forced the closure of a homeless aid program converged on the empty building where it had been housed, just outside of downtown. They blocked off a street with wood, metal dumpsters, and other large trash bins, sparking bonfires that leapt as high as 15 feet in the air. City officials later released a statement describing the spasm of unrest. Oakland police responded to a late-night call that protesters had broken into and occupied a downtown building and set several simultaneous fires, the statement read. The protesters began hurling rocks, explosive, bottles, and flaming objects at responding officers. Several businesses were heavily vandalized. Dozens of protesters wielding shields were surrounded and arrested. Protesters ran from several rounds of tear gas and bright flashes and deafening pops that some thought were caused by flashbang grenades. Fire crews arrived and suppressed the protesters' flames. Protesters and police faced off in an uneasy standoff until the wee hours of the morning. In Philadelphia, protesters were arrested earlier Wednesday as they held a sit-in at the headquarters of the cable giant Comcast. In New York, about 100 military veterans marched in uniform and stopped in front of the New York Stock Exchange, standing in loose formation as police officers on scooters separated them from the entrance. On the other side was a lineup of NYPD horses carrying officers with nightsticks. We are marching to express support for our brother, Iraq War veteran Scott Olson, who was injured in Oakland, said Jerry Bordelot, a former Army specialist who served in Iraq through 2009. The veterans were also angry that they returned from war to find few job prospects. They is missing from that sentence. It should be there. Wall Street corporations have played a big role in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, said Bordelot, now a college student. He said private contractors have reaped big profits in those countries. A New York Post editorial on Thursday called on protesters camped out in Manhattan to leave or have police evict them. What began as a credible protest against bank bailouts, crony capitalism, and the like, has in large measure been hijacked by crazies and criminals, it said. In Boston, college students and union workers marched on Bank of America offices, the Harvard Club, and the State House to protest the nation's burgeoning student debt crisis. They said total outstanding student loans exceed credit card debt, increased by 1 million every 6 minutes, and will reach 1 trillion this year, potentially undermining the economy.